Welcome back, Bonnet Heads. I am Pamela Bob, your host, and I am the creator of Living on a Prairie. Please watch it. It's fun. And I'm here with my wonderful co-host, our beloved Prairie bitch, Alison Arngrim. Alison, hello. How are you?
Hey, how are you? Oh, and I'm in Living on a Prairie.
Yes.
Wonderful. We're just talking about your acting skills. And I said, I have acted whereas this far from your nose. And so I know you can. Yes.
Yes. And you made me projectile cry. Tears.
Yes.
Projectile tears. You made me
You
cry.
were already crying, but I thought I could say terrible things to make you stop more than I did.
Amp it up. Amp it up. Yeah, you did. It was great. It was the perfect scene partner ever. All right. We're here. We're doing part 2 with our beloved Prairie man himself, Dean Butler, our hashtag imaginary boyfriend. Let's just welcome him in, shall we, and get right to it. Dean, welcome. Welcome back. Part 2.
Thank you.
From the studios of UB&Go in Burbank, California, in New York City. This is a special event podcast. This is Little House 50th Anniversary Podcast. And we're back. So, Dean, you said you started acting in high school because you had a crush on a girl, and that's what led you to the theater.
Yes.
The story of so many men.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
But when did you decide, hey, this is something I want to do? Did you go to drama school? What was your trajectory then?
So after high school, I enrolled at University of the Pacific, which is a small liberal arts university in Northern California, where my great-great-grandfather had attended and my father's sister had attended as a drama student.
Oh.
And so I went there, and I was really fascinated with the theater department, which was very good at the time, and with their radio station, KUOP, which was a 30,000-watt NPR affiliate. So that was to watch theater done at a higher level than I'd ever seen it done, where I could be a part of it, and to be a part of KUOP, where you're listening to the likes of Bob Edwards and Susan Stanberg and these are your colleagues, as it were, as NPR people. That was very, very cool. So after my freshman year at Pacific, I could have enrolled or tried to get accepted into Pacific's summer repertory company called Fallon House, it was up in Columbia, very near where we shot Little House, up in Sonora. So in Columbia, there was the Fallon House Theater. And during the summers up there, they would do repertory. So they were there for 8 weeks or something, in a different show every week, or 6 weeks, whatever it was, but a different show. And by the end, you're running a different show every night. I mean, if you were a student there, it was a ton of fun. But someone said to me before the end of my freshman year, he said, this isn't what you really want. You want more professional training. And so they encouraged me to audition for the American Conservatory Theater Summer Congress in San Francisco, which I did do, and was accepted into that. And this was really my first opportunity to be around people who really perceived themselves as professional actors, as people who were aspiring to acting on that level, beyond the beyond the collegiate, the college actor, which is, there were definitely serious people, very serious people at Pacific who were pursuing acting, but at ACT, everybody who was there was seriously pursuing acting, and we were there working in the same building as ACT's resident company. I remember Equus was being done during that time, and Danny Zippy, who was starring in Equus, was always, running around in that theater, was in the green room. And, so we were hanging with professional. Yeah. Annette Bening was part of ACT at that point. So, you got to see theater on a different level, on a profession, and they really stressed what professional theater, and you learned about combat, and you learned about, you learned a lot of different things that I was never going to see at Pacific. And that got me more serious. And then that led to being introduced to an agent in San Francisco by the father of someone I'd gone to high school with, a wonderful advertising executive in the Bay Area named Don Dorward. His agency was Allen and Dorward. Don was really one of the icons of advertising in Northern California. He introduced me to a wonderful agent named Ann Brebner, who said, who sat me down and we chatted for a few minutes. And she agreed to represent me. And then, within the next week, I'm starting to be hired, get extra work. And so I'm, showing up on Coca-Cola commercial sets. I mean, San Francisco was a wonderful backdrop during those years for shooting commercials. And then the Streets of San Francisco was shooting. Right. And so Carl Malden and Michael Douglas. And I had my first silent bits on the Streets of San Francisco, the first one pushing the nearly mortally wounded Michael Douglas as he was leaving the show down a gurney at San Francisco General Hospital.
Gosh, we need to see this clip.
And
viewers, please listen, listeners. I know you're gonna sleuth. Yeah, you're going to sleuth. Please find this clip of Dean. Please,
so
and send it to us.
Really, really fun. And then I did my first dialogue. I was Taft-Hartley'd on the Streets of San Francisco the next year when Michael Douglas left, and it was Carl Malden and Richard Hatch on Streets of San Francisco, and I was a malicious phone caller harassing Pat Hingle, the wonderful Pat Hingle, and it was another guy and I at local, and we got arrested or detained by Detective Stone in a phone booth, a phone booth placed as a phone booth never been placed in San Francisco on top of Nob Hill overlooking Alcatraz and Angel Island and the Golden Gate Bridge. I mean, there's never been a phone booth there, but they just put a phone booth down there because that was going to be a cool place to shoot that. And we got detained, and we were these two innocent kids who, I did this as a kid. You pick up the phone and you call people and you say stupid things on the phone, and the people you're calling know exactly what's going on, and you feel like you're being so witty, and you're just being an idiot. Well, this is what these two guys were doing on Streets of San Francisco, and Pat Hingle was completely flipped out, and because we're sort of muffling our voices and doing stupid things. But I got my Screen Actors Guild card from that, and then
very cool.
Yeah, it was all really fun. I knew that extra work was not going to be, where I wanted to be in the seen and heard category. I really, I realized I needed to do more. And so, when I got that, when I did the Streets of San Francisco, the coolest thing about that, and we can all relate to this, when the honey wagon went by at the location, it was the first time I saw my name on the door of the dressing room. That's a big moment when you see your name on the dressing room door as it's just rolling by on the street. Oh my God, I've arrived. I mean, and the dressing room is arriving. And it's not like there's any clothes in there. I'm just wearing what I have on, but you have a dressing room, as the actor, you have a dressing room. And that was a very big deal. That was a transformation point for me. And we all can relate to that. I mean, it's like anybody who's done this, that's a big moment. And then I did a thing with Sam Elliott called Once an Eagle. And Sam Elliott I played the... Was
it a play? What was it?
No, it was a miniseries for NBC.
Directed
by a director named E.W. Swackhammer. I love that name. E.W. Swackhammer. And I was a young German soldier. I was the first person that Sam Elliott killed in war. And so, I'm walking through this vineyard in Northern California, Napa, which is doubling for the south of France. And here comes Sam Elliott with his flat, his helmet and his bayonet. And I turn around and he's there and he runs his bayonet through me, and it was my first close-up. So I got,
Oh my gosh! Please, viewers and listeners,
so I don't know if anyone can find Once an Eagle, but that was really fun. And hanging out with Sam Elliott for 4 hours.
Tell us.
He had Lifeguard coming out. He had just done this movie Lifeguard, and Sam Elliott was not a household name at that point, but you just knew Sam Elliott had something, and that voice that you just was just incredible. And what a gracious, lovely guy he was to hang with for a few hours. He would never remember this, but I just felt like I was in the process of arriving, hanging out in this villa with Sam Elliott, waiting to get killed by him. I thought it was really cool.
Oh my snap! I'm so excited.
This is totally off topic, but for some reason my brain went to this. My mother, who's an actor, was on an episode of Law and Order, a solid 25 years ago, and she was the person that was killed in the first scene.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And the person who killed her was a teenager named Nacho. So I had friends that wanted to make me T-shirts that would say, "My mom was killed by Nacho." So, not as good as Sam Elliott, but hey.
You take that moment wherever you can get it. It doesn't matter who kills you. If it gets you a close up, give it to me.
Please, Nacho, kill me.
Getting killed by famous people. My mother, for years, she did a thing, Murder on the 13th Floor. You should have heard my mother going on about, I get killed by James Brolin with an axe.
There you go.
It was like the greatest day of her life. James Brolin killed her, and she was...
and at that point, that was awesome. Like Marcus Welby, James Brolin. I mean, it was
big time. Huge. Big time.
I mean, yeah,
Dean,
yeah.
When did you was it through this agent then that you got Forever, the Judy Blume?
Yes.
And that was a really big deal.
Oh, that was a big deal. That was a very big deal because everyone was being cast in Los Angeles. Mary Goldberg was the wonderful casting director there. She is since deceased, but Mary Goldberg went on to cast things like Alien and Amadeus. And
oh my gosh, that's my favorite movie of all time, by the way.
It's a great movie.
Number one movie of all time.
Yeah, Thomas Hulse was awesome in Amadeus. And I didn't get it when I first saw it, but it became this commentary on pop culture, which it was then. And all the wonderful actors. Who was the actor who since got into trouble after Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Who played the Emperor?
Yes,
and
he got in a lot of trouble.
Yes,
the principal from Ferris Bueller's.
But he was awesome. They were all incredible in this movie.
And oh my gosh, just because we were just talking about her last episode, you were in Into the Woods with her. She was also in that movie.
Barbara Brenn.
Yes.
Oh wow,
that movie is. Forget about it.
But I met Mary.
But anyway, back to Judy Blume,
I met Mary Goldberg, and we were talking. I went to Ann's office, and here's Mary Goldberg, and it's the first time anyone had handed me a script to read. I mean, I'd seen sides, but she handed me a script. Let's go to page blah blah blah, and let's just read a little bit. And I read for her, and we talked and we read some more. And she said to me afterwards, she said, "You are absolutely perfect for this. This is 1,000,000 to 1 shot that you can get this, but I'm going to fight for you to get this because you're absolutely right for this." So, and then John Cordy, who was the director of this, who'd gotten some renown for a movie the week he had done called The Autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, and he'd done another one called Farewell to Manzanar, and he'd done an Academy Award-winning documentary called Who Are the DeBolts and How Did They Get 19 Kids? Actually, and the DeBolts were residents of my hometown, Piedmont, California,
wow.
So I was familiar with the family. I didn't know John, but he was lovely. And when I met him, I think he got it too. I mean, Mary had worked on him, but he was a very gentle, sweet spirit, and he fought for me. And the thing that really made that work, I think, is a couple of days before the mix and match auditions for that, so it did proceed. John called me and said, I want you to go to the SFO and pick up Stephanie Zimbalist and bring her to Mill Valley for the read-through for this before you test with her. When I got to Mill Valley, there was Jeff East, who had was in the theaters as young Superman.
Oh my gosh.
At that moment, younger than the young version of Christopher Reeve. And I thought, well, I'm dead, man. I'm never going to get this. I mean, here's this guy, and he's on every big screen in America right now. And but that ride from SFO to Mill Valley in my little yellow VW Bug was just, awesome. She was lovely. There was an instant connection. I felt like I understood Stephanie intuitively. I understood something about the way she was raised. I understood we had a lot in common, not an acting background of any kind, but there was this there was a style similarity between us and I got it about her immediately. And so I just felt immediately comfortable with her, and that made that reading go really well. And that tape we shot that tape in John's office, and it was sent to Los Angeles. And I got a call a couple of days later from Anne Brebner and her wonderful New Zealand accent. All she said was, "Hello, Dean, you got it." And it was like I was the 1,000,000-to-1 shot in that moment. And it was a wonderful experience. And that's what took me to Los Angeles. And that's where I signed with a wonderful agent named Ina Bernstein, who represented Stephanie and her father and Robert Mitchum and Lee Remick. And, Ina was the head of television at International Creative Management. She said she'd represent me. And we had a conversation early on, and she said to me, she loved Little House. She absolutely loved it. She said, she was a very buttoned up New York woman. Very, this was pearls and silk, and she sat in a queen's throne chair in her office, looking up at the West Hollywood Hills, through the top floor at ICM.
It's wild to think that she manifested that too, that again, when the older I get, the more I realize there really are no coincidences. Yeah. It just feels like this was just all meant exactly to work the way that it worked.
And the whole destiny, like you said, casting director's not making a mistake. The destiny thing. Okay, but forever, lest we forget, this is a story about virginity. And about a young girl's first boyfriend, sexual experience. Yes. So again,
you read the book. Of course you did.
Oh yes, have I read your book? Yes, I have read your book. Here again, you're playing a guy in a romantic relationship in a love scene with a woman who's a complete innocent. And again, it's about first love. Right. But the woman you're playing this with is not 15 and is maybe somewhat less innocent than the character of the teenage girl.
Well, Stephanie had life experience too. I mean, this movie was a kiss fest. This movie we made out everywhere. On the beach, in the family room, in the car, at the dance. I mean, this was a major kiss fest, and I have to say we did that quite well.
Yes. Hey, and her mother was not watching. Her mother was not there at any point.
No, her mother was not there, and her father understood.
And you were, it was comfortable. There was no weirdness. Yeah. There was no comfortable. There was no strangers in the night. There was no anybody going.
No, there didn't need to be that. You were fine. I mean, the most challenging thing about that for me was that Stephanie was a smoker then. So, so there was always that issue and you've talked about this with Steve Tracy with the Banaka in the pocket. Well, Stephanie didn't have Banaka in her pocket.
Oh, dear.
So, but nonetheless, Stephanie doesn't smoke anymore. She gave that up a long time ago. But that was a minor obstacle. I felt so totally at ease in this situation. And I'd had a wonderful first love experience of my own. And it wasn't, Jane, who I'd followed. I mean, yes, that was a wonderful first love experience. But the one that really mattered to me was the relationship that I had in my senior year in high school, and that went on for a few years after that with a young woman named Tracy Powell, who I write about extensively in the book. And it was that relationship that allowed me to feel that I could be a man that was of consequence.
Yeah.
And that was a very, very powerful relationship in my life. And I feel like, and I've said in the book, that Tracy Powell deserves as much credit in many ways for what I was able to play, because she was so loving and generous with me as a young woman. And this was a very, this wasn't like a big sexual relationship. It wasn't. I mean, Tracy was Mormon. She had very strong feelings about all of that then, but it didn't matter. There was a connection that happened there with her that was so special on an emotional level that it just, it fueled all kinds of possibility in me. And I think that was what allowed me to go in and feel comfortable auditioning for Forever. And that was it was that respect for women that I learned in that relationship with her that really helped dictate or inform how I was going to be with Melissa Gilbert, and how, I'm going to be respectful and generous with her. Strangers in the Night aside.
I love the Strangers in the Night. I think that's hilarious.
Do we need 2 questions? I'm just freaking out.
I want to ask you one more thing. So do you
I do monologue. I do monologue answers, but
okay, I love
by
it.
the way,
It was awesome. It was awesome. Are you kidding?
Did Mike? Do you know if Michael Landon saw you in that, or
in Forever?
When you came in to audition, had he not seen you do anything?
I had gotten an indication that he had seen it. I know Melissa saw it, but I don't think Melissa knew. I don't know that. I'm told that. Now, Patrick Laborteaux tells, and Patrick, who would be in a position to know these things, told a story about how she'd seen Forever and, thought that was cool. But
and she should have loved you. What?
And actually, I don't know that Michael saw Forever. He certainly would have had the opportunity to look at film. I mean, because there was film. That was, that is such a powerful tool to have when you're, to say that you have a movie in the can that someone can look at.
Right.
And for Little House, it was the perfect thing to look at. I mean, other than the fact that it was a kiss fest, but there was the other parts of it that were appropriate for Little House.
We will get to rapid fire questions in a moment. But speaking of Michael Landon, there was also an interesting part in the beginning of your book about it's your first day on set, and you asked Michael very innocently, like, was that good enough? Was that take good enough? And his response upset you.
Well,
so can you just explain where you were emotionally during that time, and now in retrospect,
I was terrified.
Do you understand his do you understand his answer, and did you seek his approval? Were you seeking approval
oh my God.
in general?
Well, and Alison could verify this. I mean, I followed Michael around and Catherine McGregor around like a puppy dog. I mean, I wanted to absorb everything I could absorb from those people. They were, Michael and Catherine were 2 very different talents, but both prodigious talents at what they were doing and what their skills were. Michael said to me at one point, and I didn't write this in the book, and I'm sorry I didn't. He said to me at one point, you need to decide who you're going to listen to.
Oh.
And I know what he was talking about. He was talking the fact that I was listening to Catherine McGregor a lot. And he said to me very pointedly, he took me, put his arm around my shoulder, and he walked me away from the set. And he said, at some point, you have to decide who you're going to listen to. And I didn't think I wasn't listening to him, but the fact that Catherine was available to me to talk. Michael was never really available to talk to. He was so busy all the time.
Yeah.
But okay, so the moment that you're talking about. So I do this scene, this first little scene in the buckboard with Melissa. where she's running home from school and I pick her up in the buckboard and we talk and I'm going to call you Laura Elizabeth and, but no, it wasn't that scene. That wasn't the scene, but it was the first buckboard ride. And I said, was that good enough? And he'd been laughing with me a second earlier. And like I saw a curtain come down in his eyes.
Scary.
And he said to me, and I've had people question my understanding and the intention that he had, but I'll never forget it. And the answer was, how the F do I know? I've only been doing this for 20 years. And it was as cold a moment as I've ever, and I wanted the ground to open me up. This is my first hour on that set. I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me up because I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get fired right here.
Oh boy.
Just for asking that question. What I got later, and here's the perspective that I got. And I think he probably sensed, not incorrectly, that I was nervous, that I had anxiety, that I wasn't certain of what I was doing. And he wanted me to know when he said cut print, we were done. That
was how he did it.
That was it. There was no negotiating performance. You didn't get another one because you wanted it. Other directors, maybe you get another one. With Michael, when he said, and Allison can vouch for this, when he said cut print, we're done. We are moving on, and it's good. And if I say it's good, and don't think about it.
That's it. The word print means
it's over.
That was perfect. You did a good job. That is and the word is print. Okay, wait. When he said the thing to you, when he did the thing and the curtain came down, did his lips disappear? Did he go snake
I don't
lips
remember
on?
that. I think I disappeared when I heard those words come out of his mouth.
It's such an awful
when Michael
feeling.
turned around and went, is there a problem? And suddenly he had no lips and his nostrils were flaring. You went, oh, wow.
Well, and he was behind the Carrera sunglasses. So I couldn't see his eyes. It just got really chilly. And I've said this. I told this story to his widow, Cindy, and she said to me when she expressed upset that I had written this story.
Oh.
And she said, you're misinterpreting him. He was kidding with you. And I said, no, he wasn't.
No,
he wasn't kidding at all. There was not a moment of a joke in the way he said that to me. That made an indelible impression on me that I never got past. Now, later, he came up to me and said, very generously, and I did say this in the book as well, he came up to me and said, I will never let you look bad.
Yeah, which is a completely same intention.
I wish he'd said that.
Right.
When I'd asked him, did I do okay?
Right.
Instead, it was the door slammed down or the door slammed in my face, and later he fixed it. But it's funny when those kinds of things stay with you when that happens. I couldn't just blow the first thing off and make it go away. It stayed with me always with him. And I was very careful. He was, as Allison can attest, as anybody who worked with Michael can attest, Michael was a wonderful, wonderful director. And I love the way Karen said this. And Karen, who notoriously had some issues with Michael.
Yeah, right.
When he gave an actor his full attention to achieve something, he was absolutely spectacular in the way that he did it. And he could be, and Melissa has talked about this, as loving and nurturing a human being as you could be. But when he was ready to move on, he was ready to move on. That was it. And so that was the lesson that I got the first day, and it stayed with me, and I never questioned anything ever again. So he achieved what he wanted to achieve with the comment.
Right.
It was just
setting a strict boundary.
It was just a little rough to start.
New guy needed to know. New guy needed to know what was going on.
Right away.
And so
like in an instant. Yeah, and I got it. I got it.
So very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to do one quick thing before we get to quick fire. Quick rapid fire.
You mean rapid fire?
I want to give you. Well, sure, we're going to do rapid fire.
Oh, okay,
but first,
so there's
I want to
quick
do
fire and rapid fire. Oh, okay.
I want to do word association with you. Okay. I'm going to give you a few names of your cast members from Little House.
Okay.
And give us your first response to those names.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Melissa Gilbert.
So smart. So smart.
Michael Landon.
Brilliant.
Karen Grassley.
Professional. Incredibly disciplined and professional.
Melissa Sue Anderson.
Cautious and remote. She was remote. I think she was so sweet. She could be very sweet, but she was you didn't really get in with Melissa Sue Anderson, you know? Yeah, but a really nice person, I think, when you got a chance to talk to her. Sorry, I said way too much. Go ahead.
No, it's great. Linwood Boomer.
Funny. What I could go on about Linwood. Go ahead. Keep going.
Victor French.
Exceptional. So available.
Yeah.
Available, spontaneous. He could do anything.
You talked a little about him before, but Matthew Leverteau.
I think quietly, astonishingly brilliant in what he was doing. I mean, I don't think that Matthew could have done it another way, frankly. I think that he did what he did, and that's what he did, and he was brilliant at it.
Yeah. Catherine McGregor.
No.
Yeah.
Force.
How many brilliance can we say?
Force of nature.
Yeah.
Force, irrepressible force of nature.
Lucy Lee Flippin, your sis.
Loved her. I adored her. Sweet, vulnerable, careful, so sweet. I mean, I adore her.
Here's a standout. James Cromwell.
Oh, God.
Who was Harv Miller.
Harv Miller. And you just saw, I mean, he was so in command of what he was doing. Cool. He was so in command. And when you saw the work later, years later, the different things he was doing, I mean, it was just like, oh my God, is this guy incredible or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is. It's so cool to see him on Little House.
Yeah.
Shannon Doherty.
Determined.
Yeah. You've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And last one, Jason Bateman.
He was a smarty pants. You know? He really was. He was a cocky little smarty. Yeah. At 9 years old or 10 years old, he was a cocky little smart. I'll never forget the day the Grips hung him from a chain on the stage and swung him back and forth because he was just such a cocky little SOB at 9, 10 years old. What he had about him is he had this light about him. He was funny. He was bright. You didn't get any of this anxious intensity that's part of his work now, where he's like fighting for survival every second. He was this open book, funny kid, but he wouldn't shut up. I mean, you and Michael loved him. He was terrific. You just knew he had something really special.
In case you've ever wondered, what did they do on the set of Love? You say, what did you say if you did have a child actor who acted up or was difficult? We hung them from the ceiling by a chain.
He was a great kid, but he was really cocky. And I don't know where he got that. This was like his first job. I don't know how he was that cocky. Yeah.
But you know, that, a star.
That served him later. I mean, in Arrested Development, that's why that character worked so well. It was just like so perfect for that.
No, he's very special.
That's cool. Oh, I love that. Thank you for that. We'll be right back with Dean Butler after this.
Hey, when you visit Simi Valley, California, you are stepping into the pages of history. Go from the pioneers to the presidents. Explore beautiful wildflowers. Hike through iconic Hollywood locations and end your day aboard the actual Air Force One at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum. Less than 15 minutes away from Los Angeles and 30 minutes from Universal Studios, Simi Valley has small town charm with big time history. Go to visitsimivalley.com for more information.
We also want to thank Alexander GMC of Simi Valley, Golden State Water Company, Marketingscape, Strathern Historical Society, WM, formerly Waste Management, and Vista at Simi. And also, by the way, Little House 50th anniversary bus tours. Yep, they're continuing at Big Sky Movie Ranch on June 15th. Go to simivalleychamber.org and select a Little House 50th anniversary and then bus tickets to get yours. Dean, you were a major part of the Simi Valley 50th Anniversary Festival. Besides the craziness of getting that all off the ground, were you able to actually enjoy the weekend? And,
I loved
what
it.
are your takeaways from it? And that can include takeaways from other festivals, too.
I think the 50th, which all three of us here were a part of, I'm sure we'd all concur. I mean, Pamela, you hadn't done anything with us until other than the things that we'd done with you for your show and this podcast and all of that. But I'm sure Alison can concur. This was a weekend of Little House love unlike anything I had ever seen. Yeah. This exceeded all of our expectations massively. To see, I mean, this was really an exercise in teamwork. And as much as the team did bump heads over various things at various times to get there. And it wasn't necessarily a smooth flow to get there. But when it was time for everybody to step in and do what they said they were going to do, everyone stepped in and did what they said they were going to do. And it came together. It's like this thing that just popped up out of nowhere. And within that last 10 days before the event happened, it all just happened. And everything that was supposed to be there got there. And it was extraordinary. When those sets went up in that gym, I mean, I'd seen what was happening with the facades, and that was, and I thought that was going to be the centerpiece of this. When those sets went up in that gymnasium and in that high ceiling with the atmospheric lighting around them and all that, said, we've hit the mother lode here.
Yep.
This is incredible what we've got here. And I think, I mean, I knew I'd seen the sets under construction. I'd been in constant communication with the builder. I'd seen pictures coming. I was blown away by the pictures. I went to Tijuana to the set shop to see the stuff being built. When it was there, it was just when people walked into that gymnasium after standing in line and they came in and saw this, they were blown away. When Michael's children came in and saw these sets, particularly, I feel like Mike Jr. was particularly astonished when he saw what we had built. Because I think as a producer, you really understood what we had done. Yeah. That was incredibly gratifying to see that with them and to see when GMA came in, when you and when Alison, when you came in with Karen and Melissa and you walked on.
And we didn't know. I mean,
you hadn't seen it. We deliberately did not let you come in beforehand.
They wouldn't let it. Yeah. I mean, I knew because I know Eric and I know Olin and I know everybody, so I knew what was going on. I was talking to people. They're going, I'm building it right now. You're going to freak. So I was hearing as it was being built, calling me up and said, I can send you this picture, but I can't send you the finished picture. People were sending me sketches, pictures. Like, I'm not sending you the last picture because you're not allowed to see it. So I knew it was going to be insanely epic. But Melissa and Karen they hadn't even gotten those pictures. And we walked in and everyone was hiding behind things and giggling because they knew. And it was just jaw on floor and the house. I mean,
it was wonderful. And seeing particularly, I mean, you sort of figure that fans who love it, I think they would appreciate the effort that was taken to have Karen and Melissa and Alison, who had not seen it, and other members of our cast who had not seen this, come in and take this in. Those who had been there, who knew what it was, who knew what it looked like. I mean, was it perfect? I think the Mercantile, and you're in a better position to understand that than I am. The Mercantile, I think, was with the detail.
I think the Mercantile was perfect.
Incredible.
I think the Mercantile. Okay, the school was so good.
Oh my God!
Melissa and I walked in and sat in our assigned seats.
Yeah.
We just instinctively did
the house was slightly larger than it actually was. It was slightly
tiny. It was so freaking small.
Yeah, it was slightly larger.
Small, okay.
Yeah. I'm not saying huge, not like 50%. It was maybe 10% bigger than it was.
Yeah,
but the feeling of it was so right, and
the detail was insane.
Yeah. It just was. We were just blown away. I said, "This was the big win."
Yeah.
This was the big win for me, because this was the thing that we really hung our hat on. This is where we spent the money to build this. You know, we spent deep into six figures building those sets, and the facades. I mean, it was, double digit six figures to build those sets and the facades. And I think we scored big time with that.
Yeah,
and,
they were amazing.
And so that was incredibly gratifying. And then the crowds and the tents, and you were part of that. Alison, we were all part of that. The energy in those tents during those panels was incredible.
I think, and I'm not being biased about this, I think the panels were the heart of the whole operation. And then the interiors were insane. It was just the whole thing.
The number of people in that tent, you come in, there's like this roar, like you're at a rock concert when you walk out. Like, what was happening in there?
When you came out with Karen, and they were singing, and they were singing "Sweet Caroline" to her, and she was dancing, and you were dancing, and this Neil Diamond was pounding in that tent, and people singing along and seeing the joy in her face.
Yes.
Because
she was not expecting that.
Yeah, that was beautiful. And that established all that wonderful energy that made that panel incredible for her and for the audience. And your questions and all of that were wonderful. When Melissa came out with Chris Chaika, and that was, to hear her say in the panel, "These are great questions." I thought that
they were magical.
Yeah, Melissa, who's been questioned by everybody on every conceivable topic, it was just, her response was so good because the questions were so good. And I take credit for both of you. I said, it's Pamela and Chris Chaika, and this is who's doing these panels. And I got pushback. Why do we have to fly them from New York? This is too much money? Blah, blah. I said, no. We need to do this. These two people
would have done it. Yeah.
Well, I think there were lots of people who were willing to do it, but I said, no, these two people are the ones who have to do this.
Well, that's very kind of you. We were so honored to be there, and we really cared. I mean, we really worked on these questions and researched. And I mean, you should have seen us on the plane flying out there. It was just, I worked the entire time. It was awesome. a big lead up.
Yeah,
to
no,
it,
I mean, the 50th was extraordinary.
It paid off.
Yes, it did. And, and throughout the remainder of this year, there is an effort to honor Little House in this 50th year. We obviously did what we did in Simi Valley. Gravel Road Markets is doing an incredible job taking Little House to other markets around the country during the year. There are going to be wonderful surprises at those events. Walnut Grove is going to be a really lovely event. It always is. They do a great job. I mean, you can't be back in the home of Little House and not have a great time. And the people who come to this event from all over the world, and we've been there for the 40th, the 45th, there is love in that place. And it's very gratifying.
Love it. All right. Last question. and then we'll do rapid fire.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Last question is, who were you at the start of Little House compared to who you were at the end of Little House?
I think at the beginning of Little House, I think I was all expectation. At the end of Little House, in all candor, I think I was a little afraid about where this was going to go afterwards.
Interesting.
Because you become so attached to something and you become so identified as something that where can you take this? And I think I was, and I think we all had a level of anxiety. I mean, and Alison, you left a year earlier and stepped away, and you came back briefly in season 9. But I think there was a high level of anxiety, and and I think anybody who says they're not anxious about the end of a long running series is either kidding themselves, and they may be kidding others who don't know what this is. But I think it's a very anxiety-provoking experience to have something like this. And it's very hard to have lightning strike twice. That just doesn't happen. And this is why we're here 50 years later. Because
that's some big lightning
doesn't strike on that level. I mean, Little House lightning keeps striking, and it's been incredible for all of us and incredibly gratifying. But to translate that into something else, very hard to do. Very hard.
I think the two most stressful times are beginning a television series and ending a television series. When I think about how stressed out I felt and how weird I felt when I first started the show, and then how completely stressed out I was and physically like, oh my God, what am I going to do when it ended? It was kind of like in between.
Yeah, you're just doing it when you're doing it, and the material's coming at you so fast, you don't have time to really process it. You just do it. The scripts are coming. You learn the dialogue. All the team comes together, and you do these things the best you can. But when it's over, it's like in a sense, it's like, like the long running play. You can do, I did 320 performances of Into the Woods on Broadway. When that's over.
God, which we haven't even talked about, which one day we will talk about.
But when that's over, it's over. Yeah. And the great thing about what we did is that film lives on. Into the Woods goes away. That's like in the vapors. It doesn't exist anymore. Everything we did on Little House exists, and that's the incredible gift. We are eternal at the ages we were during that time, telling these stories to audiences, new generations of people who are finding these stories and loving them, stories that touch really fundamental parts of being human, archetypally in this really beautiful way. That's a lifetime thing. I mean, I just don't know. I think it would be like, just incredibly ungrateful to expect anything more than that. I mean, I just think it's been incredible, and I embrace it so fully now. And I mean, Alison and I know this. I mean, we are all in. Yeah. We are all in.
We made a decision at some point, like somewhere during like all the plannings of the thing in CNE. Are we doing this? I guess we're doing this. And I had a conversation with Bob, like, somewhere October, November. We went, okay, so there's going to be a lot of events for the 50th thing. I'm just going to all of them. So, yeah.
Yeah, and who knows how much longer it goes on, but my feeling is once Little House became a digital property in 2014, once it went from being an analog to a digital thing, now it really becomes eternal. Now it can go on and on as long as digital can be translated to a new algorithm. It's ones and zeros, and it can turn into anything it needs to turn into. Now, with a push of a button, and that's very powerful. And as long as it's loved, and it shows no signs of not being loved, it's going to be around. It really, truly is a legacy for all of us who are a part of it. It's an incredible legacy.
We are code. We are in the matrix.
Yeah, we are code. Yes, we are code.
Okay, Butler, are you ready for rapid fire?
Sure. What the hell? Let's go.
I'm so excited about rapid fire.
In no particular order, it's time for Little House 50th Anniversary Rapid Fire with Dean Butler. Here we go. Set the clock. Summer or winter?
Winter.
Ooh, morning or evening?
Morning.
Would you rather fly or have super strength?
Fly.
Fly. Are you more of an introvert or an extrovert?
Introvert.
Would you rather travel to the past or to the future?
Well, I've done a little traveling to the past. I think it'd be sort of fascinating to go to the future.
Right?
Street smarts or book smarts?
Neither. I mean, I'm really, I mean, okay, maybe more streets, but not mean streets.
Right.
You know, I'm a pretty,
You're a lover, not
I'm
a
a
fighter.
country road smarts.
Yes, got it.
Yeah.
Learn by watching or learn by doing?
Doing.
Cannonball into the pool or dip a toe in first?
Cannonball.
Yes.
I'm totally dip a toe in first. Okay.
I
Would
knew
you
you were
rather? I'm a wimp. Would you rather sleep in late or take a long nap midday?
Long nap midday. I love mornings. I look forward to getting out of bed in the morning. I like getting out of bed in the morning.
Ice bath or sauna?
Oh, it's sauna.
You've had experience with ice bath.
Sauna. Love a good sauna. Yeah.
Apple orchards or wheat fields?
Apple orchards.
Orlando.
Rehearse or not rehearse?
Rehearse.
Hell yeah.
Definitely
Innocently
rehearse.
kiss a 15-year-old Melissa Gilbert or eat popcorn in bed with an 18-year-old Melissa Gilbert? Tricky.
I'd like to kiss an 18-year-old Melissa Gilbert in bed.
That's the right answer. Dinty Moore or KFC?
KFC.
Michael Landon or Victor French? I'm talking director-wise.
Oh, that's a toss-up. They were
you can say
both
tie.
great. Yeah, tie.
Okay. Which name is the craziest? Almanzo, Pearly Day, or Royal?
What is it with this family?
I know.
Yeah. What is it with this family? Oh, Almanzo's definitely. Well, actually, Pearly Day? I think it's a toss-up between Pearly Day and Almanzo.
I agree. Pearly Day is some crazy.
What is that name? Yeah.
Right.
Okay. That was it. That was rapid fire with
Awesome.
Butler. You did good, Butler.
Thank you.
did good. I think we are going to we're going to have to wrap things up.
I think so too.
Okay, we don't have time today for listener questions, but please send in your questions. We will get to them next time, I promise. But before we wrap up, I just wanted to tell you one listener comment that she emailed into us, which I think is hilarious. Claire Donahoe wrote in to say, I have to share a funny story as a Little House 50th anniversary podcast listener. I was listening to the well-known song on the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe.
Santa Fe.
I know that song. I'm sorry I'm mispronouncing that word. Made popular by Judy Garland. There is a line in the song that goes, "Hey, Jim, you better get the rig." And my brain translated it to, "Hey, Bob, you better get the wig." in relation to Alison's iconic "Bob, get the wig"
That's awesome.
catchphrase. So she just said, "Thanks for all you do to make us Little House fans feel seen." So thank you, Claire, for that. That made me just laugh and feel very happy that we're reaching all of you guys out there. So anyway, Dean, thank you so much for being such a wonderful, wonderful guest for these last two episodes.
Thank you both for
your
wonderful questions and comments, and thank you for supporting the book. I mean, we're a team. I love working with both of you. I think we have a really good time together. We each bring something different to this party, and I just so appreciate both of you. You're
Likewise.
Just awesome.
Okay, kids, we're leaving it on that positive note. Thank you so much for joining us. You can join us on our socials on our website, littlehouse50podcast.com, littlehouse50podcast, and get those listener questions in. Watch out for social media because we'll be asking you for that. And Bob, get the wig. Let's fly, guys. Let's fly. We'll have to have Bob on here pretty soon.
Bob on.
Good.